Good morning, children. Welcome back to the social session. Children, in the past class we were trying to understand about the Hiware Bazar, how to rationally and equitably use the underground water. Today we learn about the success story of Hiware Bazar we have seen. The Hiware Bazar, which is a rain shadow region and which is a dry region of the country located on the western part of the nation, today has sufficient water and the underground water level also has increased, and they have water for 2 crops today. Even though they cultivate they plan it and they cultivate depending upon the rain data, okay, that has given a very good income and the development of the standard of living of the Hiware Bazar people. Today we learn water as a common pool of resource, and how do we consider it as a common pool of resource. There is also a case study which we shall understand today, and we'll see how to apply the same kind of things in our day-to-day life. That means how to efficiently and effectively use the water in our day-to-day life. So over the past few decades, underground water has become the main source of water for many people, not only for drinking, even for the agriculture and industries also. The underground water has become a main source. So this tremendous increase in the use of the underground water has significant impact on the water availability and access to it. Because the current laws are about underground water in many states, both outdated as well as inappropriate. So these laws are not sufficient to bring stringent or strict conservation of the underground water. They are inappropriate and they are outdated laws, these all are, because we have copied these all laws from the British people. They were developed at a time when groundwater level was a marginal source of water, but today it is a main source of water. Previously, the surface water was considered as a main source of water, but today underground water, people are exploiting it, even going very deep and bringing out the aquifer. So today shallow and deep tube wells has become very common, and it has the potential to draw the water from very great depths. So what should be the judicious way of using this underground water? Whether the owner of the surface of the land will be the owner of the underground water also. So how these law should be made in order to use it judiciously, let us see as a water as a common pool of a source. So current laws on the groundwater use or the groundwater usage are inappropriate, and because the basic link between the access to groundwater and land ownership. The person who owns this land will be the owner of the same underground water also. How? Because underground water is not got collected by the percolation of this part of the land only. It may be the percolation somewhere else, because the aquifer got gathered here, the water may flow in here. So how he becomes the owner of the underground water also? So these laws were inappropriate. Since underground water can be extracted from the land above, and the link has been established between the land ownership and the control of the underground water. The water drawn from the underground system was assumed to be owned by the landowner on the surface. So this implies that groundwater is mostly controlled by the individuals that own the land. That means whoever owns the land, they have the right to exploit the underground water. People who doesn't have the land, they doesn't have any right to explore the water. The landowners were not restricted even how much of amount of water should be extracted. They can take out as much as they can. So why is the above understanding has a flaw? Underground water does not obey the human land ownership, because the water gets gathered underground by the percolation at different places. So it doesn't obey the human land ownership boundaries that are made on the surface. And water is a flowing resource. You cannot stop it and you cannot gather the water. Water is a flowing resource, and water is extracted from an individual through the tube well or well depends upon underground rock formation. If there is rock, even though you are the owner above it, if you have rock underground, the water may not get collected there. So the recharge from the rainfall or the surface water happens because of the many other factors which are around that land which you own. Hence the actions of others in the region also affect this particular well. For example, over extraction from the one tube well may decrease the water level in others tube well, isn't it? हमारा ट्यूबवेल में से, हमारा बोरवेल में से ओके ज़्यादा पानी यूज़ कर लिया तो बाजू वालों के ट्यूबवेल ड्राई हो जाती है कि नहीं, बिकॉज इट्स ए कॉमन, एंटायर थिंग इज इंटरकनेक्टेड इनसाइड, अंडरग्राउंड में तो पूरा कनेक्टेड ही है, सो यू कैनॉट एक्सेस मोर वाटर, so their wells dry up very soon since these wells are interconnected by the underground structures in the region. It is therefore inappropriate to think that ownership of a flowing resource like water. Let us compare the air, whether the air which is present in this land, you are the surface, this surface land owner, the land, the air which is flowing, are you the owner of it? You can use as much as you can? You can't. So compare this with the air over the plot, it is always flowing and there is no boundary or no way you can create the boundaries for it. Similarly, there are no boundaries even for the water which is flowing underground also. Today this is a major source of water for people. When there is so much of extraction, it affects the future generations. Therefore, one cannot allow the individual or the landowners to extract as much as water they wish from their land, and there should be some restrictions how much of water should be exploited from the underground. These restrictions will be acceptable if we first delink the connection between the ownership on the surface and the water accessible from the underground. If this is broken, if this connection is broken, then automatically you can make the appropriate laws relating to the exploitation of the underground water. Where control over underground water is linked to the land rights, there are no pressures on individual land owners to use the water in a fair manner, nor there is any other way to implement the policies to make them accountable for the welfare of the broader community to use less water. So for instance, there is an unregulated system. There is no authority that can determine how many wells, hand pumps and other tube wells can be sunk in a given area. Some form of regulation that takes into account the broader aspects of groundwater are necessary. Therefore, water should be used, or water should be thought of as a collective pool of resource that is meant for all people. Similarly, like roads, rivers and parks, underground water is also a public property. As long as you keep on thinking that underground water is also a public property, you use it very efficiently, and there will be some restrictions imposed by the government in order to use the underground water. So it belongs to all, underground water belongs to all, and while this is being recognized today by some state governments, it has still not received, or it has not become very widespread. So regulation is not easy. This is also because some resources like water, electricity, oil, natural gas, consumption by one person or sector affects what is available for the others in the future generation. So that is the reason why regulation is not that easy. In fact, in a number of states, the answer to falling water groundwater table is that to increase the power subsidies. The state governments has given the power subsidies, due to which the extraction of the water has become more, and the fast decrease in the groundwater table can be seen. So the limits of an approach that not only refuses to control the access to the groundwater, but also seeks to encourage it with specific subsidies and steps have to be taken clearly understood. The political thinking has to change in order to make this regulation. As long as you keep on giving the electricity subsidies to over usage of the groundwater, you cannot implement the regulations. So in the next class, we will see one of the case study between the Permutti Gram Panchayat and Coca-Cola company. Thank you, children.